The holy life is not what you think. I've been very lightly touching on a book about Gurdjieff. Russian, lived through revolution and died 1949. Yep. A guru in his way, but emphasized in an interesting way normal living, in that he was not living as some monk or something. And well, the autobiography is extensive, but no, not autobiography, just biography. That's the problem. If it had been an autobiography, I felt it would have been filled with whatever his teaching was. But in fact, it was filled with endless detail about Gurdjieff's life and what he did, rather than what he said. And perhaps the author just didn't know it. But one thing I did pick up was that for most of us, the holy life is going to be living very much in the world, which from a Jesus story point of view, we've been sent into. And the practices aren't religious, ritual and so on, but more a psychological thing of this relationship always in your mind of you with God and why you are still in the world. I mean, quite simply to bless people, bring them to life eternal, from a Jesus point of view, you see. So you're seeing the variety of good and bad, both, as part of this teaching. School time was not all excitement and success. But you could make it such by both enjoying your friends and enjoying the lessons that you have no choice at school, of course. I mean, you've got to go. You're a prisoner of society in that sense. And you get through as best you can, of course. But as best you can is very much, I'm going to decide to enjoy this, which is what I did when I was at school, somewhere around the age of 12 and a half. Significant age, isn't it? I think of the Jewish bar mitzvah, that peculiarly what we might think now at a young age, you come into an awareness of being a young adult. Somehow it comes upon you. I understand boys develop later than girls in this sort of maturity sense. So perhaps girls come across it earlier. I think I see that in my daughter. She's just 12 now, but she's been able to handle things very well for some time now. I'm thinking of separation between me and her mum, my ex-wife. That has probably helped to accelerate her maturity, and it has. Again, a tremendous blessing, you see. I just mean that in that strange way, it's been a great maturing experience for her. And she still seems to be very much intact as a person. Bless her. Don't dismiss the fact that you're not some amazing recluse or saint, or you are. It's not played out in that sort of extravagant, worldly way. It's your life coming to know God. The which is the foundation stone of your eternity, of goodness and blessing. This is life eternal, to know thee, the only true God. John 17. Chapter 17 of John's Gospel. And Jesus Christ whom thou hast sent. And Jesus is understood, you see, to be the way in the story. Your way. You see, he wasn't a monk, was he? He wasn't a recluse. He was a saint, yes, in the story, more than a saint, but just in the world. Not, a prince. All sorts of the miraculous, of course, written into the story. I mean, you wouldn't have read it otherwise. It had to be an exciting story, didn't it? To last a few thousand years. Just like the Buddha's story, in that sense, And yes, his is full of obvious miracles. But when your mind is ever relating to God in everything you do, you'll see your miracles. They might seem rather trivial and mundane compared to Jesus' story, say. But they're not. You'll see them for what they are. Evidence of God's presence in your life. You'll feel his care, and that care will give you a great fund of wealth to be loving and kind to others, because you have this assurance, this faith, this trust in his eternal provision for you, and for them, of course. Bless you. And you are blessed. So to others who may be living just normal life in their society, I mean, they may appreciate certain things about you. You're kind, you're pleasant enough, you don't seem to get angry, A cheerful sort of bloke, or lady, sorry. But, and you have some very serious conversations with people, of course. They know you're the sort of person that believes in God, and they may think you're whatever the current religion has been, like in this case, 21st century in the West, Christianity, and they may get that wrong. But they do appreciate that you're different in some way. Yeah. And not a danger to them. Funny enough, we're only seen as a danger to those who have such a strong religion that is different in its spirituality somehow to ourselves. And I don't mean by that theology, because people can have a different theology, but very similar ethics and devotion to God. Others can have a very different theology, so to speak, but it's hostile to anything that's not, in a worldly sense, very similar to their own theology. This is especially so of Judaic religions, Christianity and Islam and the Jewish religion. Less so with other religions. So it's not all plain sailing, of course, and really the teaching here, the lessons, wouldn't have the cutting edge if it were. Perhaps cutting edge is a bit too vivid an analogy, but a description, but in the world you will have tribulation, Jesus says, and it does seem to be the case. It doesn't mean that you have to shudder and expect to be crucified and so on. There's no need for that. I mean, one crucifixion is quite enough, thank you. We don't need Paul, for instance, to be flogged and shipwrecked and imprisoned and beaten, and he seems to have missed the point. Well, perhaps he didn't. Perhaps he lived rather before the point. Jesus' life, I think. There's something to be said that the more reliable or the scriptures that we ascribe to Paul are actually pre-Jesus by possibly 100 years. He talks much of the Christ and not Jesus, and almost not at all of what Jesus taught and did according to the gospel stories. Never refers to them, or almost never. What is referred to, you sort of feel could have been just dropped in as a consistency editing. I don't mean I know, but it does look a bit that way. Academics, and I am one, are very obsessed with proof and so on, evidence. We are not. We're impressed with desired relationship, especially with God, of course, but with those around us too. And we act accordingly. It's the love of God in us. We don't know how it's come, but we're so glad we've got it. Thank you, Heavenly Dad. Love you. Thank you, Dad.